Do you think we're going to see Tyler Reddick in victory lane again in 2022?
Man, I think so. I think we're going to see more. He's just such a great race car driver. And, Richard Childress Racing right now, I mean, it seems like Tyler Reddick is really, he's been so consistent all year. And like you were saying, Dom, 5 top, second runner up position. I mean, 5 times. And, you run that well, that consistent in the top 5, your wins are going to come. And I think this is just the first of many more to come. He's such a great race car driver. He was great when he first came on the scene in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, but it looks like to me that RCR is really, getting this next gen race car figured out, and Tyler Reddick's with his ability and his talent level, man. I mean, there could be a force to be reckoned with there for the championship this year. And but man, I'm not surprised. I mean, we talk about Tyler Reddick a lot on our show here, and you knew it was just a matter of time. And I didn't see the race Sunday because I was busy at the beach, but I did. I watched it for about 10 minutes, and it was the time that Tyler Reddick took the lead with about 15, 16, 14, whatever it was, laps to go. And man, you could tell he was following racing with Chase Elliott, and it looked like those two guys were the class of the field. And man, like you said, Dominic, he passed him clean. And I watched it for about 4 or 5 laps after the pass, and he just pulled away from Chase Elliott. And like we were talking about, I mean, when you can pass a reigning champion, former champion, and one of the guys that's considered a road racing ace current. I mean, Tyler Reddick did something special, but I don't think any of us are surprised as he's been there week in and week out. So just glad to see it. And I think there'll be many more to come, even before we get to the playoffs.
The thing that stood out to me, Dominic, was that when you looked at Tyler Reddick the last 2 seasons, we all know that he can run up front and lead laps and that he can be in contention. But whether it's his own fault or his team's fault, whatever it may be, that number 8 car has not been able to finish races up front. They have not been able to get the job done. And that's not to blame Tyler Reddick or the team. I think it's been a little bit of both, quite frankly. And for them to put him in position to have the pit stop and the pit strategy for him to be up front, and then for him to execute on the racetrack, all of that coming together, that felt like a lot of frustration finally put away. Like they finally got the monkey off their back of finishing that race the way that they did.
Well, I think of 2 races this year that stand out that Tyler Reddick, right? We always say it coulda, shoulda, woulda won, but Auto Club, the Fontana race early on, led the most laps, won both stages. Didn't work out in their favor. I believe it was a mechanical issue. And then, of course, the Bristol race leading 99 laps, having the spin out with Chase Briscoe on the last lap and getting edged by a car length by Kyle Busch at the line. I think all of that culminated, and I think there was a lot of frustration, like you said, but piecing together a full race, a full run, all 3 stages executed perfectly. Green flag pit stops executed as best as they could be on Sunday. RCR did it right. Tyler Reddick did it right. And here we have our 203rd different NASCAR Cup Series race winner. And guys, our 5th different winner in 2021. That's a first-time winner in the Cup Series. You got to think back to 2011 or 2000, or even as NBC pointed out on the broadcast, this is the first time since 1950, the second year that the sport was around, that we have this many new winners at this point in the season.
It's remarkable. And one thing I look at, David, of the first-time winners that we've had this year, guys that waited a minute, right? Tyler Reddick, Daniel Suarez. Now, Chase Briscoe was the second-year driver. Austin Cindric, a rookie. I'm missing one other name. Ross Chastain waited a long time coming. With those 3 there, the guys that waited a while. David, I'm curious what you think about this idea. For me, one of the things, and you've been one of those guys that went from trucks and Xfinity to Cup, it seems like that one of the hardest transitions for these guys is the length of these Cup races. You don't run 400, 500-mile races at that Xfinity or truck level. And it's like in football terms, if you were going to play another quarter of a football game, it is a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen with Chase Elliott, he didn't get his first career win his third season. Kyle Larson didn't get his first career win until, what was it, halfway through his second season or third season, something like that. Is that a big adjustment for these guys, just the length of these Cup races as opposed to what they're used to running?
Well, I mean, it's interesting you asked that question. I just think, man, we're used to running 300-mile races. The next thing you know, you're running 500-mile races or 400-mile. Cup is 400, 500-mile races. But I don't know. It's a tough question.
That seems to be the common theme with those guys is finishing races.
Yeah, but man, it's a team sport. You know what I mean? It's the racetrack's changing. You might start the race the first and second stage, your car is great, and the temperature might change. There's so many variables. But I would tell you that pretty much all the men and women that race in NASCAR, whether it's the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, the Cup Series, these guys are unbelievable athletes. And, from a physical standpoint, I think they're all ready to run 500 miles. I don't think that's a big issue, but it's hard to really answer that question. Just so the race is so long, and whatever, when the race starts, that first stage compared to the last stage, it might be night and day with how your car drives, but we see it week in and week out. A car is really strong at the beginning, leading laps, and you get towards the end of the race, and it's a different car. It's not as good, or vice versa. You have a guy that we didn't even consider that was going to be a contender in a race. He was back running 20th. The next thing you know, as the race plays on, man, the team, the driver, the engineer, the crew chief, they start making the right adjustments. The next thing you know, man, where'd he come from? So I don't know. It's just it's a tough question, and I don't have the answer for you, Tyler, because I think any race car driver from a physical standpoint can do 500 miles. But it's staying on top, keeping up with the change in racetrack, making the right changes in the car. So it is a possibility, but I really don't have the right answer. But, when you're used to running 300 miles and you go from 300 miles to 500 miles, it is different. It's a lot longer. And, sometimes just, I have never run full-time cups, so it's hard to say. But, from what I'm seeing over the years, it looks like there's a little bit of a learning curve, and what that learning curve is, I'm not so sure. I think it's such a team sport. And man, once everybody starts hitting on all 8 cylinders, look what happens. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Hey, race fans, if you enjoyed that clip, check out the full episode on YouTube and all podcast platforms.